Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Fenway Park.
2 weeks out from opening day, and the number 2 is ringing heavily in my head, not for the obvious reason. Trevor Story is, well, no, Trevor Story's taking number 10. Number 2 is Silzander, but 2 weeks away.
Yep, 2 weeks, man. Opening day, I can't wait. For the obvious reasons, sign of spring, baseball's back, Red Sox are back. We're looking at a full season after all the turmoil of the off season. It's really good to know it's coming, especially after, kind of dealing with the threats of it not happening or, games getting canceled and that. So I will say this is probably one of the more recent opening days that I'm actually more excited about than others. And I think it's just plays in part with what happened in the off season.
Yeah, I think we cursed them too. I think we said they were undefeated last time we talked. I think they went 5-0. Now I don't think they've won a game since. But yeah,
it's spring training. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. With really not much else to talk about, I thought we'd talk about some of our favorite numbers. We're in their numbers of Red Sox uniforms. We won't get too far down into the rabbit hole. We'll just look at 1 through 10. I think a few of them will be quite obvious to the both of us. And actually, we'll start off with 0 because 2 people have worn the number 0, and they've only come recently. One is Brandon Phillips, and the other one is who was that?
Ottavino.
Ottavino. So,
yep.
I'll just say Phillips, good utility guy, can run fast. That's about as far as I can go.
Ottavino at least produced. So I'd go with, that was my favorite because he did produce. It was just nice to see somebody who was on the Yankees that they gave up on, and we got him and we got something out of it, and the Yankees paid the bill for it. So any guy who does that, wears a jersey number, you'll be at least in my conversation the best to wear it.
Yeah, like I said, I think quite a few of these will be a short discussion as we move through here, because up until the early 2000s, there were really only 4 numbers retired, and that's what kind of kept the curse alive. 9, 4, 1, 8. And I think they might have jumbled the numbers, because I know it wasn't September 4th, 1918 when they had last won, but just that time frame with 1918 just sitting up there in the right field, seeing those numbers, it just, are we ever gonna go past? And obviously we did in 2004. So number 1 seems fairly easy, and it's number that's been retired for quite a while, Bobby Doerr.
Yeah, I agree. That one spot on, Bobby Doerr. He's kind of legendary in Red Sox lore, so it just seems fitting for that one. That was pretty much a slam dunk for number 1.
Yeah. There's a lot of that time frame, the Ted Williams time frame, as we'll talk about as we move forward. He was a big triple guy back in the day, slugging. And it's amazing that I think they only went to 1 World Series. It's a shame, and we lost. We'll talk about Williams here in a little bit, but he hit 409 in the World Series when they did go, and they still didn't. And I know Williams hit high in that World Series, and they still lost. But all right, number 2, and I think this will be probably the biggest discussion, because we've had a side discussion before now, is that who's your favorite number 2? And this last year we lost the Rem Dog. Burns a hole in my heart, man. The Red Sox are, I think, over 100 years in existence, way over 100 years in existence. And he was a part of that for a better part of 40 years as a broadcaster and a player.
Yeah.
And I know Xander, he's got the number, but Xander, retire, please. Pick another number. Let them retire Jerry Remy. They got the number on the sleeves coming this year in remembrance of the Rem Dog. That's my opinion.
You know what? I don't disagree. When we were looking through this, I was gonna poke some fun at number 2 and say Jacoby Ellsbury, but you know what? In all seriousness, no. Xander's on his way to being a generational talent, and he very well, if he does have his full career with the Red Sox, it could be one where you talk about retiring the number. But in terms of Jerry Remy, there's a lot of sentimental value, and really, if you think about it, it was a guy who, born and raised there, gave his life to the Red Sox. I mean, not literally, but a big part of his life is, quite the impact to the Red Sox franchise. As you said, for over, 100 years we've been around, and for, 40 of it, Jerry Remy was doing something with the Red Sox, and even as a player. So the sentimental value, yeah, that number needs to go there. He's a favorite player. Is he going to be in the Hall of Fame as a player? Absolutely not. But Xander, I could honestly see him giving up that number, if the Red Sox approach him with it. I guess that's kind of the mystery. Is ownership going to go to Xander and say, hey, we want to retire this and remember Jerry Remy? Can you switch? I could see Xander being a stand-up guy saying, yeah, sure, I can do that.
And he is a stand-up guy. I mean, he's one of the biggest reasons Trevor Story is here. He recruited Trevor Story.
Right.
So he wants to win. And do I think numbers mean things to players? Obviously they do. They all have their reasons for having those numbers that may go all the way back to Little League.
Right.
But I think he'd be honoring the late Jerry Remy by moving on, whether it's 22 or 12. I don't know what's out there and available, but it's up to him. Yeah, we'll see. And maybe he will. Maybe it'll be one of those Ray Bork nights, takes off his jersey, he's wearing 22 underneath there as they take two, well, not to the rafters, but they unveil it in right field, which I hope they do someday. Number 3 was kind of hard for me. I was looking back at the numbers. I'm like, you're telling me Babe Ruth never wore number 3 as a Red Sox player? I'm sure he did, but maybe it's not listed. The only player, and it shows you how old I am, is Jody Reed that came to mind. Jimmy Fox, not my era, obviously. Listened to a lot of stories from my old man back in the day, what a great player he was. Obviously, once again, the Ted Williams generation, they had a fantastic team. We say 2004 is one of the best teams in Red Sox history, but you could probably pick a number of those years, with Dorr and Fox and Williams and DiMaggio, his brother, obviously.
Don DiMaggio. Yep.
But they had fantastic teams. They probably just didn't have pitching though.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't, and I agree. To me, it would be Jimmy Fox. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. Had time with Red Sox and the White Sox. Had a stellar career even with the White Sox afterwards. So as we were going through some of these numbers, for me at least, some of it just comes down to these are guys haven't played in my lifetime, haven't seen them, anything like that. I'm going to go legendary. Who was legendary and part of the franchise. They're probably going to get the heads up if there's really nobody else. And if you're looking at number 3, you got guys like Carney Lansford up there. I mean, I remember him, but he's too good. But when you compare him to Jimmy Fox, no. And then there's a bunch of guys that I've never even heard of, Bill Schlesinger and Dom Demeter, and that I don't know. So,
we had some really bad years in the 60s. So in the 50s, I think too.
Yeah,
and the 80s weren't until 86. But anyways,
totally.
Moving on. Number 4, and I had to do some research because I couldn't think of a number 4 for me, and that's for obvious reasons because it's been retired since the early 80s, and that's Joe Cronin. I had to go back, do a little history, do a little research. Once again, guess what generation, what era?
Yeah, same one.
Yeah, back in, he managed the Red Sox for a little while. But, he's went to the Hall of Fame, in the Hall of Fame, holds the AL record for pinch hit home runs, which you wouldn't think much of. It was 5 at the time. I'm sure somebody's broken that by now. Was in 12 All-Star games, 6 of them as a player. Evidently, he was just as relevant. What am I trying to say? Yeah, he played such a role as a player as he did as a coach. That's what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
I can't think. I don't know if you came up with a number for. That was the best
No,
I could do.
Same thing. Yeah, Joe Cronin as well. And like I said earlier when I spoke about Carney Lansford's, he wore number 4 when I was looking through Baseball Reference for some of these, because it's like I can't think of these numbers off the top of my head. And looking into it, yeah, Joe Cronin, that's the name that really sticks out. And again, goes to that Ted Williams era. And people often kind of honestly forget that era, that there wasn't just Ted Williams. It was a lot of guys who produced, and there was still a couple of other Hall of Famers on there. So
yeah, I think number 5 will probably be a slam dunk for us too. Noma.
Yep, Noma.
I can't think of another guy who I enjoyed watching. I don't know how his body broke down. I thought he was this fantastic athlete, but he did get hit in the wrist, and he was never the same, unfortunately. And he was traded during that 2004 championship year, which I always felt bad that he did. He got the ring because the ownership group, he played half the year with the Red Sox, but the fact that he never got the ring with the Red Sox, I always felt bad for him on that. But yeah, it's the only guy on that, and there's been multiple number 5s.
Yeah.
He didn't have a sensational enough career where I would go back and say, yeah, they need to retire him. And looking back at these numbers, and I'll let you go on to number 6 here in a second, is that I was surprised. Hate the Yankees. Yankees suck, whatever. But I mean, they don't have a single digit number.
No.
Anymore. None.
Yeah,
They're all retired.
Yeah.
And I would have thought with our history that we would have had more retired numbers in those single digits. So let's go on to number 6.
Well, the Yankees hand out numbers and retire them like it's candy. So,
they're going to have to unretire some of them.
Right. So, and of course now they keep going back to 2009, but that's a different topic.
Yeah.
But moving on to number 6. Number 6 actually just was a tough one for me. Both of these guys, played long before my time. But looking at the numbers and hearing the names and, kind of Red Sox history, you had Rico Petrocelli and Johnny Pesky. And I went Johnny Pesky. I mean, I did go Johnny Pesky. The poll's named after him. For one, he was an announcer.
And he was a living legend in that dugout for years, especially during the 04 series.
Right. He was. And, it doesn't take anything away from Rico. It's just, you know what? Johnny Pesky was just a little more legendary than he was. So that was a tough one. But now we move on to number 7. And I think this is where, full transparency here, I am going heart over what the facts are. Anybody who knows me knows that one of my favorite Red Sox of all time is Trot Nixon. Trot Nixon to me was just, as a kid, he was one of my favorite players, just watching him. And I shouldn't say kid. I mean, I was, high school, but just watching him play, he was a gamer, literally would just do whatever it took for the team. He didn't care. He would start outfield, infield, didn't matter. I'm sure even if they wanted him to, he would have pitched if necessary. He just wanted to play and would do whatever it is. I don't take anything away from Dom DiMaggio. Again, if you want to go to the era,
statistics, I would go with Dom also.
Yep, I know, and I don't blame anybody for doing that, because I think he's still got the record for consecutive hits with 35 in Red Sox franchise history. I think that still holds up. So I don't blame anybody for poo-pooing me on that one, but
I'll go right with you, man. I'll say Trot Nixon too, because I think he was the ultimate and the first dirt dog.
Yeah,
I think he was the one who came up with dirt dogs.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Remy. It was probably Remy, but I mean, he was the ultimate dirt dog before, maybe around the same time. I think he even preceded the Laser Show.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Pedroia. But
yep. Yeah, it is. And so now, I mean, we move on to probably with the exception of maybe some of the recent World Series guys like Manny and Poppy, I think 8 and 9, it pretty much says itself. It's Yaz and Teddy Ballgame. I mean, those two numbers, nobody who, even if somebody were to wear those numbers again, they would never be as good as those guys, period. It doesn't matter. So I think that was kind of open and shut. 10 brings up an interesting thing because as we just found out recently this week, our newly acquired Trevor Story is going to be wearing number 10. And as I was digging through, who's worn number 10, the sentimental value, Coco Crisp, I was a big fan of him. But I honestly, I can't give it to him. I mean, he was good, but I actually went with Lefty Grove because that's a name that's synonymous with baseball. He was a very dominant pitcher, 2 times World Series champ with the Philadelphia Athletics back in, early 20s and he's part of, baseball lore. So, and even when he was on the Red Sox, he still, dominated as a member of the Red Sox. So I gave it to him, despite quite a few guys wearing number 10, even recently. But we'll see what Trevor Story does. He's got that 6-year contract, and if he puts in enough years with the Red Sox and continues on the trajectory he's going, that's one where Red Sox fans years from now would be like, yeah, it's Trevor Story wearing number 10. That's, the best to wear it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're sitting here. Let's go. Let's hit a couple more numbers. We got a couple more minutes. 11. Raffy. It's Raffy. I mean, Buck Holtz, he had a nice career here, but he's so inconsistent. I love Bill Miller.
Oh, yeah.
He was, didn't play her
another dirt dog.
Yeah, another dirt dog. Exactly.
Yep.
But it's Raffy. He's been hitting the cover off the ball since he got to the big leagues.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ingrained in my mind, that shot that he hit off the Sandman in Yankee Stadium, in the Monument Park. He was like 19 years old or something crazy like that. It was like 101 miles an hour. Boom, gone.
Yeah.
And they won that game.
One-time batting champ, too. So when he was at the Cubs, he was batting champ, just
who?
Bill Miller.
Oh, okay. I'm like, Raffy never.
Bill Miller was, so. But yeah, Raffy, he's already put his name into Red Sox lore with that stuff. I mean, and honestly, if any member of Red Sox organization actually were to dive into this video, I'll just say it now: extend them now, extend them now, extend them now.
Extend them now, extend them now, extend them now.
Right.
Not tomorrow, but now.
So who do you got for 12?
Ooh. There really haven't been a lot of superstars with 12, but I'm going to go with my age group, my era, which was the 80s, 90s, Ellis Burks. He was a sensational center fielder. He was one of the best center fielders they've had since before, obviously, JBJ. You had Coco Crisp, you had Ellsbury, you had Damon Speed. You had Ellis Burks, and he didn't get all the accolades. He played with Mike Greenwell, who got a lot of it, because Greenwell back in those days, I mean, if you hit over 300, hit 320, you were a superstar.
Right.
And he hit that time. He was what?
He was a hell of a hitter.
Mid-90s to late 90s when they were beating up on Cleveland. They wouldn't go much further, but they always beat Cleveland.
Oh, yeah. They always did. Yeah, I went with Ellis Burks as well, just because right around that time, younger guy, getting into baseball and stuff, he was a guy that he could hit. He was a hell of a player. And, I went with that too. I'll take number 13 here. There actually has not been a whole lot of number 13s, which surprised me. But looking at
does it though, with baseball players being as superstitious as they are? I mean, you looked at the same graph as I did, and there was a 46-year gap where not one player wore the number 13.
Yeah.
That just speaks volumes that these guys are superstitious.
Right. It was. And so I ended up going with John Valentin, because, again, in that early 90s, as a kid looking at that, I was a Red Sox fan, and, just tried to memorize every player that was on the team. But John Valentin, before Nomar, was a star shortstop for a bit.
Yeah.
He hit for power, not tremendously, but he did get some home runs in that. But what's funny is,
he was
Alex
like
Cora,
Remy. He was a lot like Remy.
Right?
Very speedster, could come,
Yep.
played his position very well. Didn't overwhelm you with home runs or anything. Hit towards the bottom of the order, but he did his job.
Yeah.
Wasn't superstar by any means.
Yep. And what's interesting too is, like I said, Alex Cora, he wears 13. He's the manager right now. He's already got one World Series. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. I'll double check. I could be wrong, but I see him doing that. And you know what? If he keeps going as manager, you could legitimately say, as a manager, if he keeps winning World Series, yeah, he's one of the best to put it on. So,
one of my favorite players to wear the number 13, and not because I can remember one stat from this guy, but just for the love of his name, Billy Joe Roberto. They say he played 1990 probably for about 5 seconds, if he even got any at bats with the Red Sox. But I mean, just the name itself. As I'm looking it up right now, he had 44 at bats with the Red Sox back then.
Yep.
He was prime too. He's 26.
Oh yeah. When I looked this up and I saw 13, a name popped on there that pretty much makes all Red Sox fans want to puke, and that would be Carl Crawford. So
yeah,
maybe they should just do away with 13 and try to forget.
All right. With that being said, we can't end on 13. We'll just go 2 more. We'll end at 15. So the next one is easy too. Jim Ed Rice.
Yeah.
He was a sensational player when I was growing up. I didn't really get to see him in his prime. When I saw him play mostly in the 80s, mid to late 80s, or early to mid 80s, he was like Mr. 6'4", unfortunately. He hit into a lot of double plays. He was like Billy Buckner, just didn't have his legs anymore. The 70s is where he killed it, and was home probably 30-40 home runs. Sensational teams back then with Dwight Evans.
Yep.
But
he played in an era that, if you got 30 home runs, you were considered a star, just because of how it was. And there was a lot of debate with him being in the Hall of Fame. He really should be. So I was pleased to see it, because again, he was, after my time too, but as a kid, getting baseball cards and stuff, his card was on there. And I just remember looking at his stats. He played for a long time and he was consistent. And that was the best thing about him. You could count on him when you needed him to. So, and then we're moving on to number 15. And I don't think there's any disagreement here. It's the Laser Show.
Yeah, it's Petey.
Yeah. Okay, as a Red Sox fan recently, you would see Dustin Pedroia and instantly just love the way he played. He was, again, a dirt dog. He was a star. And again, injury took him out. His flame went out before it should. And the one story that sticks out with me with Pedroia was when he was first coming up. He was, taking some swings, and Ortiz was watching him. And he's taking these monster swings, trying to crush it. Poppy just basically blurted out, he's trying to swing like he's me. And it was true. That guy literally put everything into that swing to try to just crush it. And, he will go down in Red Sox lore. He was a huge part of those World Series teams. And it's not just because he produced, it's because of the kind of guy he was.
Yeah. When I think of Pedroia, I think of Bobby Orr. Sensational career. Obviously, Bobby Orr,
good comp.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
In the NHL, Pedroia would have been a Hall of Famer in my mind, but like you said, their careers were short, way too soon.
Manny Machado's a dirty player. I had to get it in. Sorry.
What's that?
I said Manny Machado's a dirty player. I had to get it in. Sorry.
But I did see a T-shirt with him that said, "Let's go, Brandon." So we'll just leave it right there. So I'm not sure if I hate him as much as I used to. But like you said, Pedroia would get out of bed and wake up, and his uniform would already be dirty.
Yeah.
You know,
it would. Yep.
just
Yeah,
like
he'd wash it and
he'd
still
slide
come out
into
with
first
dirt on
base
it.
for no apparent reason whatsoever. And he would too.
He would. Yep. No reason.
Drove
Had to do
Francona
it.
crazy. Like, I can't wait him to get him off the disabled list, so stop chapping in my ear.
Yep, absolutely. So this was good, man. Going over the uniform numbers and stuff. I'd like to do this, sometimes during the season. And anybody who watches this, put it in the comments on YouTube.
What's your favorite number?
What's your favorite number? Who played? Agree, disagree. That's fine. I got a thick skin, so you can disagree, and Jeff does too. So
yeah,
we're good with that. But yeah, it's fun to look at that and just kind of come up with these numbers. But not only that too, when you look back, some of these numbers, you know what? You don't know who's worn them. So when you look back at some of these stats and everything, it kind of brings to life of how many good players we had in the Red Sox, even though there were some bad years that we had.
Yeah, and you look at the other numbers that are out there, and there aren't many more out there for me past what we already just talked about. 45 stands out to me, obviously. Pedro. 34 stands out to you. Big Poppy. Let's see. And who else for you? Anybody?
Now I'm trying to think of Ramirez. Was it 24?
Yes.
24.
But also Dwight Evans wore 24.
Yeah,
so,
that too. That's a debate.
Yeah, that'd be that's a good debate one later.
All right, we're saving that for another show.
Yeah, I'll save that for another show. Maybe we can get somebody else on. That's a great idea. We can go and do our top 5. I'd like to get. We know some people. We got some Cardinal fans. We got some Cub fans out there. White Sox fans. I'd like to bring them on this show and talk about who's your top 5 players. Not necessarily numbers, but who are your top 5?
Yeah. I'm sure some guys will throw out some guys, we probably haven't heard of, like when I go with Trot Nixon, one of my favorite players, it's like, there's going to be some of that out there. People have their sentimental guys, and it'd be good to hear that too. What other teams are out there.
Yeah, my dad does his broadcasts. He's going to say Ted Williams, Bobby Dorr, Dom DiMaggio. Yeah, those are the players of his childhood,
right?
And then some, right? So, but I think we saw a big cross section of players from even though we talked about players in our era, we went above and beyond. So.
We have, and it's safe to say that, honestly, from, really 2004 until now, you can safely say it's a golden age of Red Sox baseball. The titles we've won, the guys that we've had, it's been a good time for us. And it's funny, I poke fun at it, but there is some seriousness with it. I really believe anybody born before 1995 doesn't know what it means to suffer as a Red Sox fan. You don't understand it. So, I'm sure I'll get some disagreements on that, but you know what? There were many years, man. One of my first childhood memories ever is the '86 World Series, and
I was there for Game 7 of the ALCS. Alan Schiraldi threw 10 pitches, 9 of them were strikes, and Rich Gedman caught all of them.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I think I was 14. Yeah, it was crazy. Right. It was beyond what I knew what was going on, but it was insane. Sitting on the third base side, and it was it was fantastic. So hopefully by this time next week, Trevor Story would have taken his first at bat. I think he just left because I've heard he has having his first kid.
Yeah,
born. So congratulations to him.
Doing that, so good reason to miss. That's fine. Yeah. No problem there. So
spring training's only for the pitchers anyway. Yeah, the hitters got to get, but the hitters can sit in the cage and. Yeah, you need some real time, but you're really not getting until the pitchers are in game time mode. They're going to give you their best stuff.
Right.
They're testing they're
still messing with stuff.
On everything.
Some of them are trying new pitches and that. So spring training doesn't really matter too much. I mean, they got off to a good start, but that at the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference either way. I just look forward, when it comes to spring training, you just look for. What are the younger guys doing? From the minors, do they have a chance to come up? That kind of stuff, and also too, as like you said with pitching, right?
Yeah.
If they're working on a new pitch, is it effective? Is their velocity going up? Stuff like that. Just to really kind of set the tone for the season.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up. And good talking to you. Shooting through these numbers. I hope people watch. Leave some comments on who they think are great. And
Absolutely,
until next
man.
time, this has been Off the Monster with Jeremy, Jeff. Look forward to talking to you next week.
Have a good one.
Bye.